Alright, buenos dias YouTube. My name is Sandro and my genetics really suck. I'm just gonna assume that if you're watching this video, yours do too. Meaning, you might have narrow clavicles, a wide waist, crappy muscle insertions, and perhaps a tendency to store most of your fat in your belly. That is, unfortunately, how I came factory packaged. Plus, I've got these tiny little thin wrists and a pencil neck. Well, I didn't like any of that, so I decided to do something about it. I also assume you probably want to do something about it too. Full disclaimer, even though it's probably a little bit obvious, but I am not a powerlifter nor a bodybuilder. I'm just an average guy, probably like yourself, who wants to be in shape, but doesn't necessarily want fitness and dieting to become the one single focus of your life and have it take over all of your hobbies. For me, for example, sometimes I don't want to work out, I just want to play some Street Fighter. So you want to be fit and look fit, perhaps show some good overall muscle definition in your shoulders, your arms, definitely your abs. That seems to be everyone's holy grail, so I'm just gonna make that assumption. Well, cool, because I didn't really make this channel so that we could all just circle each other about how much it sucks to have bad strength or aesthetic genes, right? I made it so that I could give you some advice based on my own personal experience and results para que puedas dejar de verte como una pantorrilla de canario. I did not win the genetic lottery, nor make second or third place, but I have found out ways to train so that I can look reasonably fit year-round without having to make any major sacrifices to my lifestyle. Other than when I want to cut below 15%, actually, let's push it further. When I want to cut below 13% body fat, I have to make some very conscious decisions on what I eat and when I eat them. And that can be a little tough, but that period of cutting usually only lasts about 2 months. So trust me, if I can do it, you can do it too. Another reason I wanted to create this channel is because you don't really see much in the way of advice for average people who aren't in this necessarily to compete or to become social media influencers. What you do end up seeing a lot of specifically is advice on how to do things that bodybuilders and powerlifters do. If you're like me, and you just want to work on your overall strength and body image without turning a fun and rewarding hobby into this really stressful and time-consuming venture, subscribe and stick around. Starting next week, I'm going to make some videos focused on general fitness advice for either complete beginners or people that have a year or two of experience. These are going to be tips on things such as how to gain muscle, how to lose weight, and how to properly diet without feeling starved or completely giving up on junk food. More importantly, there's going to be some tips on how to get around your crappy genetics. I know you won't care about me or anything that I've got to say if I don't at least show some degree of proficiency in what I'm talking about. So let me give you a couple of examples. I've been on both ends of the spectrum. I've been a chunky boy, but I've also been very lean. This is me about 3 years ago in ye old days of 2018, doing a hex bar deadlift of 405 pounds. Now, the quality here is but, because it's not like I thought I'd make a YouTube channel back then, but as you can see, I was pretty thick. At the time, I weighed 185 pounds, and I'm pretty sure I was sitting at 21% body fat. Now, my actual heaviest lift was 465 pounds, though unfortunately I forgot my lifting chalk on that day, so I had to fidget a bit with the bar as it was slipping off of my right hand, and thus it looks a little bit wonky. Lastly, this is me squatting 325 pounds at a body weight of 183 pounds. Now, I don't have a video on my bench press, but my best was 245 pounds for 3 reps. On the flip side, this is me about a year ago, where I was sitting at 13% body fat and weighed about 156 pounds. Yeah, it's like night and day. What I'm trying to say is that I know both how to bulk and also how to cut. Now, going back a sec to when I was lifting heavy, it is actually when I hit the deadlift of 465 pounds that I realized 3 key things. 1, that I had hit weightlifting milestones to a point where progressing any further required a lot more mental preparation and time involvement. 2, that after gaining a ton of muscle and going to the gym for a couple of years, I was not happy with the way it looked. And 3, the worst one, is realizing that it had a ton of genetic limitations, at least when it came to aesthetics. When you train to get big and progressively lift heavier, you start hitting certain milestones that just get harder and harder and
harder, Daddy.
Eventually, my weightlifting hobby was turning itself into more of a job than anything, as rest times between my sets had to be between 3 and 4 minutes in length for optimal function on my next set. So, going to the gym started feeling very tiring and time consuming, and when I was done lifting, I would honestly feel like I was about to die. Therefore, as somebody with a full-time job and several other hobbies, I decided that I wanted to be a little bit more casual about it, and that's the angle that I'm going for with this channel. Like I showed at the very beginning of the video, I have poor muscle insertions, narrow clavicles, a narrow frame in general, coupled with very wide hips for a guy. So initially, without any prior lifting experience or just fitness experience in general, I thought, you know, if I just smash through all of my main lifts, meaning like, you know, shoulder press, bench press, squats, bent over rows, all of those main lifts, I thought, if I just smash through all of those, it's only a matter of time before I fill in the gaps and fix my base shape. At least that's what I thought would happen. That is not what happened. At all. Fue pero así una decepción total. Okay, papi. Before we even get started, you need to check yourself. So, do you actually have bad aesthetic genes? Have you put in any real-time commitment into, you know, lifting weights or losing weight before? And when I say real-time commitment, I mean at least a solid year of training, not a month of dumbbell curls, chicken and broccoli. Look, without any prior lifting experience, odds are you're gonna look scrawny to some degree, and that's got nothing to do with your muscle bellies or skeletal structure. It's just because you haven't really given your body a shot to build shit. So you cannot go around being like, I've got bad genetics, because you don't really know what the f you're talking about at that point. Just for comparison, it took me a year and a half to get to those lifts that I showed you guys earlier, and that's by religiously going to the gym 5 veces a la semana. Never missed a single session, never, for that whole duration of a year and a half. Some aspects of having bad aesthetic genes are much more obvious to the naked eye, yes. Like your skeletal frame, meaning, as I said before, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record, having narrow clavicles or a wide waist and thin wrists, etc. I mean, lo siento hermano, but no amount of deadlifts is going to fix your narrow shoulders. There are, however, ways to mitigate these limitations. Are you trying to put on muscle? Are you trying to lose weight? Both? Are you overweight or underweight? How you go about exercising and dieting to look good depends on where you're at right now, but regardless of your current physical state, you'll have to both put on a decent amount of muscle and cut fit to look fat. Both of these things, meaning gaining muscle and losing weight, require very different plans, and odds are that you'll have to do both at one point or another. But if you're overweight, of course, I would prioritize losing weight first, and if you're underweight, I would prioritize lifting heavy and upping my calorie intake. This is because before you start shooting for the stars, you want a good base, you want a good launch pad to start with. There are approximately 79 zillion YouTube channels that are based around fitness, so I'm not gonna pretend like I can cover everything that they do in one single channel. But, you know, over the years I've found that there's so much information out there to the point where the more research you do, especially as a beginner, the more confused you're gonna get because there's just too much conflicted information out there. So I'm gonna try to narrow it down to the essentials. On the other hand, and in case you didn't know, Unfortunately, the online fitness industry is really scummy and scammy, oftentimes preying on people's insecurities and subliminally shaming you for not being as yoked and shredded as, you know, somebody that might be doing this professionally or using steroids. This one really gets me, because people start their journeys feeling like if they don't reach X weight or X lift or X body fat, it's like, you know...
You're just not motivated enough to put in the hard work that we do.
Like, you, man. Uno empieza emocionado, invierte su tiempo y su dinero en el gimnasio, se esmera en desarrollar su cuerpo y salen estos huevones del Instagram a decirte que no, que le estás haciendo mal. O sea, jódete. You should know that the vast majority of people out there in the social media fitness realm who claim they're natural are actually taking shots de los jugos prohibidos on the daily, and will claim that their results, or at least part of them, are due to whatever the fuck it is they're trying to sell to you. Again, be it some fad workout or supplement. Online brands can also be very scammy and will sell you just about any kind of fake routine or supplement, just as long as you buy their, you know, get abs in 13 seconds, 10-inch penis elongating fat burner. The truth is, nada de esto es real. If you're a total beginner, there are tres elementos básicos that you should familiarize yourself with, being the 5x5 workout, calorie estimating, and good eating habits. The 5x5 workout plan is a very simple and efficient workout plan that requires you to have finished, I don't know, middle school in order to understand it. And it's an easy way to get acquainted with the main lifts and their techniques so that you can start building some beginner mass and some beginner strength. Now, the 5x5 workout is a routine that you can follow for, I'd say, anywhere from half a year to a year and a half, maybe even more. And although I will make a dedicated video about that topic in the future, I'm leaving a link in the description below to an article that will explain pretty much everything you need to know about the 5x5 workout, so give it a read. Now, I'm positive that most of you, or at least some of you, have heard about calorie counting before, which sounds really intimidating, and although it isn't, I personally find it, and most people find it to be, boring and annoying and stressful and tedious. So what I did was develop a system that I'd like to call calorie estimating. It is essentially calorie counting, but a lot less nitpicky about how it goes about it. And don't freak out, I will make a dedicated video on that specifically too. Finally, good eating habits are what is going to give you, what, like 90-95% of the results that you're after. So you really need to get this one in check, and I stress it out as this channel is going to focus on me giving you advice on how to build your physique as somebody with poor aesthetic genes. You know, if you were blessed with the frame of a saltwater trout like I was, then you need to be careful with what you eat. You cannot just eat what you want all the time. It doesn't happen like that. And that's it. It's all I've got for today. Just a brief introduction to myself, to my channel, and the things that I'm going to be talking about. So if you think you could use any pointers in any of the topics that I have mentioned or covered today, make sure you subscribe and stick around. A cocachos aprendí. Mi labor de colegial en el colegio fiscal del barrio donde nací. Buenas noches.